Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about rev rates. And I know what you're thinking. If you've seen me bowl before, you're thinking, Keith, you don't have a huge rev rate. Why should we be listening to you?
You know something? You suck.
Because as somebody who has on the lower end of rev rates, I'm always looking at how I can increase that rev rate. And that may be many of you out there looking to get more revs on the ball. I'm going to be talking about what some of the typical suggestions are on how to get more rev rate, but I'll also be talking about what some of the roadblocks have been that I have come into when trying to increase my rev rate, and something that I have learned just recently that has actually helped me quite a bit. To start out, we're going to be talking about what are the typical ways that somebody can increase rev rate. The number one thing, obviously, we need to talk about keeping your fingers under the equator. And so what that means is instead of having your hand really flat here, having a cupped wrist is going to help you a lot. Even cocking the wrist in just a little bit is also going to help. Get the fingers below on the bottom half of that equator of that ball. This is also one of the reasons why two-handers have such a great advantage, is because as they're cradling the ball, their hand is completely underneath the ball. One-handers, if their arm is straight, you can see how that is not quite as far under the equator, and so a lot of bowlers you'll see will come in and actually bend their elbow a little bit to get their hand under the ball a little bit more. I don't do a great job of getting my elbow bent. It's something that I am working on, but my wrist is fairly cocked and I'm able to get my hand under the ball fairly well. The bigger issue that I have is keeping my hand on the inside of the ball, and this is a thing that you're going to hear from a lot of other experts out there. Getting your hand on the inside of the ball allows you so that as you're coming through, as you're able to rotate that around, you're able to actually get more power on that ball. You don't want to have your hand on the outside of the ball. You'll be able to get the ball to rotate correctly, you're just not going to have a high rev rate. So to increase that, we want to get your hand on the inside of the ball. Now let me tell you about what my roadblocks have been with trying to get my hand on the inside of the ball. The biggest issue is that it's not a natural position. If you stand completely relaxed, you can see that your hands, your palms, are facing inward towards your thighs. This is not a natural position for somebody to stand in, and so this takes a lot of work and torque to get your hand in. You can bring your elbow in to help with that, but it's very difficult to get this motion to keep your hand on the inside of the ball. And to assist with that, what a lot of people do is they will actually open their shoulders, because as you can see, as I come back, if my hand is flat behind the ball, it's hard for me to get my hand too far inside without opening my shoulders, which makes it easier. So you'll see a lot of the big rev players, like EJ Tackett, for example, has a really open shoulder, really high backswing. He's able to have his hand keep inside the ball and really torque through it. Now, I do not have a big open swing. I do not have a high backswing, and while that's something I could work on, it is currently how I get more revs on the ball, but I lose a lot of power because now I'm going from having this being my strength, all right through here, to now by opening, the strength changes from my shoulder into my chest a little bit, and I actually lose speed on the ball. So while I may increase my rev rate, I'm going to drop in my speed, and I don't want to do that. The other issue is that my normal swing is fairly square, and so this is what my muscle memory is telling me to do, and I'm able to hit my mark pretty consistently. Once I incorporate more moving parts and start to open my shoulder more, now I have to close that shoulder, get in that same spot in order to hit my mark consistently. And what happens is as I move left and I really try to hit the ball harder, I will hit my mark less, because now if I don't close soon enough, I'm going to be going out to the right. If I close too early, I'm going to be pulling it to the left. So there's a lot of timing issues that have to come into play that aren't natural for me in my normal swing. So I was watching a video at the beginning of this past week from JR Raymond, and he actually made me think about it in a way that was a little bit different than how others did. He's still talking about keeping your hand on the inside of the ball, but he stripped away all of the other motion, and he talked about as you're getting into your final swing, your final plant foot, your slide foot, think about your hand should not be, or your palm should not be facing your leg, or should not be facing forward, but think about your knuckles actually facing your leg, and think about keeping your elbow in so that your knuckles are actually scraping your calf. And if you think about that motion as you're coming through, that allowed me to forget about every other part of my swing. So now what I'm doing is I'm starting in a normal position, and instead of opening my shoulders, I'm going through my normal progression, normal steps, and when I get to here, everything is normal. Now I can start to think about, now I got to get my knuckles in by where my calf is. So as I'm getting the last step, this is the only extra motion I'm adding now, is to actually bring my knuckles in toward my calf and think about coming through. It also allows me to delay it, because what was also happening before when I'd open my shoulders, I'd open them and be on the inside of the ball, but I would start to come back to the outside of the ball too early, and I needed to hold it longer and longer. And instead of holding it longer, which is very difficult, what I'm doing instead is I'm having my natural position and I'm actually bringing it in as I get close to the calf and then back out again. So I'm getting all the motion right there at the release point. And that has made a huge difference. Now, I just implemented this in my league this past Wednesday. So in the tournament that I bowled in last weekend, I was trying to keep my shot in front of me, and so I was throwing not a lot of revs. I was trying to actually keep my hand out of the ball, which was intentional, and I really didn't want to work on revving the ball up too much. But in league and in other sport shots, revving the ball is going to be something I need to incorporate much more. And so I wanted to practice this in league, and I could tell visually that my rev rate did increase quite a bit. My speed came down a little bit, but not a lot, and that is something I can build back up again. Because I'm keeping most of the rest of my swing pretty square when I'm used to, my swing speed did not drop really much at all. So I was able to increase my rev rate, keep my speed somewhat the same, and I felt like it worked pretty good. And I ended up shooting almost 750, so it worked pretty well. I was pretty happy with what I was seeing. I missed my mark a couple times here or there, but I was pretty consistent on my mark as well because I was able to keep my shoulders more square like I'm used to. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna continue to practice this. I'm gonna throw a few shots that are my normal swing, and then I'm gonna throw some shots that are this adjusted swing so you can see some of the difference. And this isn't gonna take me from my normal 330 rev rate up to 500, but if it can get me up to 370, 380, close to 400, then I'm pretty happy with that because it is increasing my rev rate more than what I had previously. We're also going to take some new measurements. The last time I measured my rev rate on my normal swing, it was about 330. We're going to retake those same measurements on my normal swing, and then we're going to take new measurements on my adjusted swing and see what the rev rate actually increases to. So we're going to start by taking a look at just my straight normal shot. I typically stand about 21 on a house shot, aiming for somewhere around 12 or 13, getting it out to about 8. That's my normal house shot line. So that's where we're going to start with my normal swing. That was in a little bit. Looked okay. That was in 13, 14. But as you can see, my rev rate was not super high there. That might have even been a little bit less than my 330 typical because I got to warm back up a little bit here. That was my first shot after a bit of a break. So we're going to try that again. That's more normal. I got it in a little bit. Not really looking so much for how consistently I'm going to hit my mark or what the shot's doing down lane. We're really looking for what the ball is actually looking like, how much is hooking, but how much is actually revving as well. I like using, this is the Black Widow 3.0. I like using it for this demonstration simply because with the swirl in it, you can kind of see the ball motion a little bit better than a solid ball. That's where I wanted it. Wow, that really hooked a lot. You know, these lanes were not freshly oiled either, so that's going to be part of the issue with what we're seeing here. The ball is going to grab a little early just because it's not fresh oil, so I'm going to move to 25. I'm going to try to play 25 to 15. Okay, fell out of the shot a little bit there, but that's the gist of what I throw a lot. Now we're going to add in that extra little thought that I got from JR Raymond. So everything else is the same. My setup will be the same. My push away, swing, back swing. I'm not changing anything. I'm not thinking about opening my swing. I'm not thinking about trying to get my hand inside the ball until I'm getting into my slide step. When I get in my slide step and start that push away, I'm going to think, get my knuckles inside, get close to my calf with the knuckles, and torque through the ball that way. So we'll make a jump left. We're going to jump to 31. So we're going to be 10 left of what my normal stance is. And here we're going to be looking more between probably 17, 18. See, now we're not talking about a 500 rev rate here. We're talking about just trying to get more revs than what I had previously, and I could tell very easily that I accomplished that there. So to really see how we're doing, I'm going to add a line to the ball. This is going to be necessary for us to be able to determine what the rev rate is, because we need that for the camera to see how many revolutions we're getting. But it also helps us visualize and just see, even more so than the colors in the ball, allows us to see how much more that ball is actually revving up. So we're going to add some white lines to the ball. Okay, what we're going for here is we're going to add some white tape from approximately where my pap is. I'm not going to measure exactly where the pap is, but from the pap to just above the fingers. So you can see we've got some tape on the ball now from approximately where the pap is to up just above the fingers, okay? These lanes are dry, so I'm going to move out to about 28 here. Do the same thing, but my normal. I'm not going to add the revs here, okay? So I'm in about 15. Now let's get back left. Now let's add in that motion of getting the knuckles in near the calf. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to switch the tape over to my Venom Shock. Venom Shock is it's got a little more polish on it. Probably be more conducive to what I might throw on this shot. Actually, probably would be throwing a pearl or something, or a hybrid on this pattern, but I didn't bring any of those with me. I just brought these two balls and a urethane. And I'm sure as heck not going to throw a urethane ball. Now this ball's a little more solid, so the tape is going to be a better judge for us. Although you can see this Motive logo right here, you can see it rolling over the top, which does help, but we're going to focus on the white tape. So again, I'm going to stay in 25. I went through my normal, not bringing my knuckles into the calf, normal shot. Okay, that looked pretty good. Let's do it again on a full rack. So we'll throw 2 more shots, full rack, and if I don't strike, I'll throw the spare shot with the Venom Shock here. Okay, I'm staying in 25, throwing around 14, 15, not bringing the knuckles inside. That's right over 15. Look pretty good. Okay, I'll be able to get a reading on my rev rate from that as well. So now we're gonna go from 25 to 32. So now I'm standing 32. Now I'm gonna aim more, probably 17, 18. But I'm gonna bring my knuckles in toward my calf right at the release point. So I'm 7 boards left there. Still kept it inside the oil a little bit, got it out there eventually, but it came back nicely. And I could tell, while again, I'm not up over 400 revs, I'm not suddenly going to be national tour level type of rev rate, but I've increased the rev rate without having to change too many other things in my swing. We'll do that again. All about the wrist at the end. Very nice. Okay? Like I said, that ball is better for this particular condition. Now, to give you a basis of an example, I'm going to go ahead and open my shoulders up and show you what I was doing when I was trying to increase rev rate, which successfully increased rev rate, but slowed things down and made it harder for me to hit my mark. So we're going to stand 32 again, and now I'm going to open up my shoulders. Now, it's not going to be extreme. I'm not going to suddenly look like Pete Weber or EJ Tackett looking like my swing is wide open or very high. It's going to feel like that to me. It's a minor change, but minor changes feel major as you go through these. So for me, it's going to feel like I'm going to really open up my arms or open up my shoulders all the way through. Now, I came around that ball a lot, so it did not look very good. That's part of the problem that I see, is Not only did not hit my mark, I got that way out there, way farther than I wanted to. But I released that not very well. It worked, but that's not how I want to release it. I don't want to come around the ball that much. And I did that because I got so much other stuff going on that it's hard to repeat a consistent shot. I'm going to do that again. Shoulders open. Okay. So it can work. And I do think the rev rate is higher. I think my speed's a little slower, but I'm doing so much more in my swing that's harder to repeat. So we're going to go back. We're going to do not opening the shoulders, everything normal, but just working on getting those knuckles to scrape the calf at the release point. I'm gonna throw a few shots with my urethane here because I don't throw that ball very often. So I'm gonna stand in the same spot, 25, without putting anything extra in the ball, and just show you what a urethane ball does on this line. I got it out to the dry a little bit, so almost came back, not quite. So urethane balls, I've never been a big urethane guy because I'm not a big rev rate guy. And they really only come into play on short patterns where the far outside where the gutter is in play, because I can bank it off of that. Otherwise, it's kind of a 10-pin city sort of ball. But learning how to increase the rev rate, what I'm really hoping for is that it brings urethane more into play. Obviously not on this shot. It still probably would only be something I'll use on short patterns. But we saw what that ball did as far as not quite finishing. So I'm not going to move. I'm going to stay in the same spot, 25. But now I'm going to keep my shoulders square, but I'm going to get my knuckles in toward my calf at the release point. And that one went Brooklyn. That went Brooklyn. So you can see how much more. I don't think I missed the spot. I think I threw that in the same spot. But that extra rev rate really allowed it to jump. That gives me confidence that when I'm on a condition where I want to throw a urethane and others are throwing urethane, that I'll be able to get this ball to check and work really well. So let's move a little bit on that. I almost moved 5. We'll go to 30. 30 with the urethane. Knuckles at the calf. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So the bottom line is you're able to increase your rev rate without having to do too many things. Keep everything solid, keep your normal swing, but think about that one thing. We teach our kids that we coach that if you think about too many things, you're not gonna be able to do any of them well. So when we're coaching, we don't want to talk to them about make sure you're holding the ball here and your push away is on step 2 and you're pushing it straight away and that your hand position's in this spot. That's already too many things. They think about all those things, they can't possibly do them all right. So we pick one thing and we say, okay, we're gonna focus on, with you starting here, we're gonna focus on push away on second step, okay? That's it. I don't care what else happens until that becomes muscle memory. Because in bowling, it's all about muscle memory. And the longer you bowl, the more muscle memory you have built, and you have to break that muscle memory if you want to do something else. And it takes a lot of time to do that. So we need to break your muscle memory and establish new muscle memory. In this particular case, I don't want to break all of this muscle memory I got in my swing, from my stance to my push away to my first 4 steps, okay? When I get to here, I want nothing different. And it is not until the one thing I want to think about is as I'm coming through, get my knuckles in, okay? Let me back up here. Get my knuckles in toward my calf on that slide, okay? Don't bring your hand all the way over either. This is about getting your palm of your hand or near your wrist, pushing that forward, okay? If your hand is on the inside and you start to push that forward, you're gonna get that ball to rotate in the direction you want. So you're gonna rotate it and then lift with your fingers, and that's how you're gonna get the revolutions. You don't wanna turn your hand over. That's gonna cause the ball to spin in a manner that you do not want. So I hope these tips helped you out. They helped me out a lot. So we're gonna keep working on them, keep practicing them, finish off league doing this to see if I can maintain the higher scores that I did. And I'm really excited to bring these into play into some of these sports shot tournaments to see if it does improve my game. So make sure you all hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you in the next video.